Hey guys, welcome back to Age of the Geek podcast. On today's video, we'll be going over a new character being added to the MCU thanks to the upcoming movie, The Thunderbolts, which will be released on May 2nd. Let's get into it. All right, and today I'm joined by my father. Hello, father. How you doing?
Hello, son. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a minute since I made a video. It's not my fault.
It's not your fault.
It's definitely not my fault.
It's completely your fault.
But shut up. But today we will be going over a character that I am excited for in the new Thunderbolts movie, and I don't think you've ever heard of, except for the few times when I start rambling about him, which is fine because you haven't recorded it yet. But yes, today's video will be on the Sentry.
Now, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I've been waiting to ask you this question for about a month and a half now, since last time we said we're going to do this video. Are you saying Sentry or Century, like the Imagine Dragons song?
Sentries. Sentry.
Okay, that makes slightly more sense. I thought it was this. Actually, it doesn't make more. I thought it was some sort of cool 100-year-old character. But now you're saying he's just a security guard. So, meh.
He's called the Sentry because he is literally in the comics, they call him the Guardian of Good, which is a little bit cheesy.
Like the Lone Centurion from Doctor Who.
Yes, but it's his character is both cheesy and complex at the same time because the way they did his backstory was interesting.
When did they do his backstory?
The first comic came back out in 2000.
So he's a relatively new character.
He is technically a relatively new character.
If he's a new character, doesn't this team predate him? Aren't the Thunderbolts? Not the puppets, by the way. When you first told me to go with you to the movie, I was so excited about those. But that's the Thunderbirds from the '60s, the marionettes.
Yes.
Anyway, you said they came out in the '90s, right?
The Thunderbolts, yes, I believe they came back out in the '90s. And the Thunderbolts is, for anyone who doesn't know, is think like the Suicide Squad. I know you've seen those movies, even though you didn't want to. I enjoyed them. Think like the Suicide Squad, except that unlike having, the bomb in their neck, they're just expected to do the work without having, without going rogue. Usually it's sometimes not bad guys. Usually it's just like more anti-heroes. So like the ones I've been reading had the Punisher, had Elektra. I think it had Bullseye, who is very much a bad guy. No, he's a Daredevil character. He's incredibly evil. Will Smith. No, that was the Suicide Squad. Will Smith was Deadshot.
So I'm sorry, Suicide Squad is DC.
Yeah, Suicide Squad is DC.
So given that Marvel and DC perpetually rip off one another, which came first, Suicide Squad or the Thunderbolts?
I believe, now don't quote me on this because I haven't actually looked it up yet, but I'm fairly certain the Suicide Squad came first.
So Thunderbolts is a knockoff.
Technically. Okay. Like you said, DC and Marvel have been kind of not ripping, but also ripping each other off at the same time for, decades. I mean, the most obvious way to say that they've been doing that is Man-Thing and Swamp Thing.
Well, Iron Man and Batman.
Well, yeah, so I'm saying like Man-Thing and Swamp Thing. Man-Thing is Marvel and Swamp Thing is DC. Both of them are monsters that live in the swamps, protect the green. They're both Swamp Thing. Just Man-Thing can't talk, and his touch is poison. The creators of both of them were actually roommates and came up with the idea at the same time and agreed to make them ever so slightly different because they were working for. At least they both got paid, and both are very beloved characters.
So Sentry is a member of the Thunderbolts.
Not really. Sentry has worked with Thunderbolts. Sentry is his own hero, though.
Now, I've seen the movies for which the characters in Thunderbolts are based off of. I don't remember Thunderbolt. I say movie. Kurt Russell's son, who did a fantastic job, by the way, in the MonsterVerse series on
yes. For those of you who can't see, there's a Godzilla poster right there.
Because Godzilla is the best character ever.
King Kong.
Godzilla is the best character ever. So I've seen all of those, even though Kurt Russell's son, whatever his name was in the TV show.
Yeah,
for the
Monarch.
But I don't remember seeing Sentry in any previous Marvel film / TV show.
Because I'm hoping they will do his backstory in this movie almost one for one. Maybe not one for one the way they did it in the comics, but the way they did his backstory in the comics is he had his first issue, he just was there, right? He was just a normal dude, and suddenly he starts remembering his like a past that he never had or a past that he thought he had.
So he's crazy.
Yes, Sentry is actually insane.
Oh.
Marvel has
Bless.
this. Yes, Marvel has this weird thing they like to do where they take mentally unstable people and give them powers that involve having different identities. For instance, Moon Knight, who I still love.
Well, dude from Downton Abbey was also in Night at the Museum 3. Played Dr. X's son in a TV show that I watched, and he was nutso.
Yeah.
Do you recall that TV show?
Which one?
I forget the name of it, but it was like in the 60s. You know what I'm talking about? The guy from Downton Abbey that was also he was the Night at the Museum 3. You remember Night at the Museum 3?
Yeah, was he the guy, the knight that thought he was in?
Yes.
I vaguely remember his face. Yes. Oh.
He played Dr. X's son, who was nuts in that he was just
Professor X.
Professor X, yeah, that's what I meant.
Legion. Yes, Legion.
Legion. That was the name of the TV show.
Legion is
He's apparently just like nuts.
Legion is a
Same
mutant.
kind of thing?
Yes, Legion is a mutant that is an omega level, which I will explain if you want me to very quickly, but
There's no such thing as you explaining things quickly.
I can. I can. I promise I can.
Your superpower is knowing things. Much like
and then spewing it out in the most long way. I can explain omega level real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay. Omega level mutants are mutants who have a specific ability. All mutants have a specific ability, right? But they're the most powerful in that ability. For instance, Magneto. There are other mutants that have magnetism powers, but he is the most powerful in magnetism. And it is said in...
So they're the OG of the particular powers.
They don't even have to be the OG. They just are the most powerful in that power.
Oh, somebody new could come along and be the Omega level.
No, they're the only. There's only ever one Omega level of each power.
I understand that the concept of only one person could be the most.
Yes, and they're always there's an omnibus for like the mutants in Marvel. Yeah, I need to get it one day. And it is said in there, talking about Omega level mutants, that they always they don't have an upper limit of their power. They just keep growing until eventually, yeah. So, for instance, Iceman is an Omega level mutant, which you wouldn't think because it's Iceman. He's a lovable character, but he can freeze at absolute zero, which is
temperature at which all atoms cease to move.
He can, the Juggernaut. He can freeze the Juggernaut while he's moving, which is supposed to be impossible.
Iceman was one of the three main characters of my very favorite Marvel show, which we'll talk about in another episode.
Yes, Spider-Man, His Amazing Friends, which I do remember a little bit.
The OG of all of them. So anyway, Sentry's nuts, is what you're saying.
Yes, Sentry is actually insane, and it is bad because
he's a good guy or a bad guy.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. That's why he's called the Guardian of Good. But he's also the bad guy.
Of course he is. So in the upcoming movie, is the good guy the bad guy, or do you not?
Yes. Well, we've already seen. They have the bad guy. I think he's gonna be the main bad guy of the movie, which would make sense. Called the Void. Do you remember in the trailer? Maybe not. There's this scene where people are running, and you just see this dude, like a guy standing on top of part of a building, and people are turning to, like, falling over and turning into shadows on the ground.
Only slightly vaguely.
So that's the Void, who is Sentry, huh?
Isn't that the big cloud-shaped thing that was in the end of Deadpool that was eating people in the far future version?
Something. They have a name for what that was. I don't remember it, but I don't think it was called the Void.
Okay.
I'll have to look into that again.
Just so you know, for your regular person, comics can be confusing.
I'm a comic reader, and I'm confused. It took me. I read, because Sentry has like a very short first series. I think it was 5 issues, and just to explain his backstory, who he was, and what he can. It didn't even explain what he can do. It just sort of, hey, here's Sentry. Here's how he comes about, and then and then you move on to the next Sentry comic, and then the Sentry versus the Void, and then he's in like Avengers comics, a couple of Thunderbolts comics, and then like he's only had, I think, 4, maybe 5 of his own series, and each one are very short.
But yet, with this limited library, he still seems to be one of your more favorite ones.
Not favorite, but I've heard of him here or there, and I've always been interested in him because
he seems to be the one that you're most excited about in the movie.
Because because learning about him more over the years, before I fully read his original comics and read some of his runs in Avengers, I only knew a little bit about him, and then I knew that he was a Superman clone, which is what he is. That's what they call.
I'm sorry, you say clone. Are you being generic, or do you mean specifically he was cloned from Superman?
Well, this is Marvel, so I would hope he wouldn't be cloned from Superman. That'd be interesting. Yes, he's a Superman clone in the way that he has flying abilities. He has an S that he wears, and yes, he does it because Sentry. He has flying abilities. He can shoot heat rays out of his eyes, which aren't heat vision technically. He gets power from the sun.
Burn his own retinas out. Because reasons?
Comic book.
Okay.
Because yeah, sure. Same way that.
Can he turn it off? Like, or is he like poor Cyclops who
Sentry?
can't turn it off?
Oh no, he can turn it off. No, he's like Superman where he can control when he shoots it out or not. But Sentry is also known as the hero with the power of 1,000 suns. He is extremely powerful. He is extremely powerful.
Why do they need everybody else? Why even bother with?
Because they're gonna have to stop him.
Oh, that's right. You said he's the bad guy.
He is both the good guy and the bad guy.
Well, and metal armed dude and fat Russian
Bucky
of Captain America.
Red Guardian.
The only reason I am actually wanting to watch this movie,
Bucky and Red Guardian,
because Red Guardian was the only funny part in Black Widow.
That's true.
And sadly,
may she rest in peace.
Most of the funny parts in Black Widow were in the commercials.
That is true. Yes, when they show
parts of the movie are in the commercials.
Yes, they've been doing that a lot recently.
This is what I don't like about Marvel. Marvel has forgotten that there are supposed to be humorous moments.
But then
we're gonna do a video ranking Marvel movies.
Okay, that's fine. Except that some people are gonna get mad at that, which I don't care.
From entertainment value.
Oh.
Yes, like for instance, Thor 3, the most entertaining movie from beginning to end. Ant-Man, probably the most humorous movie from beginning to end.
Yeah, sure.
They're supposed to have humor in them. Black Widow had.
It was a little bit dry.
It was so.
But then again, Yelena, her sister, is a bit dry.
Our Captain Marvel. Now, Samuel Jackson made that movie, but
they made him a joke in that movie too.
It was anyway. The point being,
I mean, they made They made the reason why he has an eye patch because he got scratched by a cat.
Cat.
Alien cat, yeah.
But anyway, I'm excited to see Red Guardian because he brought the funny in Red Guardian.
And they didn't do him. They didn't do him justice in Black Widow because I think he fought one time.
He's pretty good over there in the Stranger Things too.
David Harbour, yes.
No, the character. Was that actually the character? That would have been cool. Anyway, go ahead.
So, Sentry. Yes. So, I'm gonna try my best to give you a quick but in-depth enough backstory for him to explain how he came about.
Okay.
So, because his comics, I don't know if you remember me telling you while I was reading the comics that I was so confused.
I do remember you telling me you were so confused. You're confused.
Yes, I was so confused.
Now, basically, normal. It's just that absorbing and filing into
things
into your comic book database is your superpower.
I love comic books. As you can, these are only a couple comic books I have, but I definitely don't have a preference of DC over Marvel. It's just I never bought a lot of Marvel comics. I had a lot of DC comics.
Broke-itude.
Huh?
You've always been broke.
I've always been broke.
So buying comic books has never been high on your list.
But I instead have, subscription to Marvel Unlimited, which is great because Marvel Unlimited has a lot of comics.
We'll talk about that in another video.
Yes, which I also would like to get sponsored, which maybe I should wait till then. But, so, the Sentry...
I'm sorry, is it Sentry or The Sentry? Because that's a big... That's
yes, it's The Sentry.
Okay, The Sentry.
But they also just call him Sentry.
Because if you're saying, hey, get me
what's your name?
Sandwich.
Mr. The Sentry.
I mean, if you're going to say, hey, give me a chicken sandwich, you're going to say, hey, The Sentry, give me a chicken sandwich.
For real.
While you're there.
His name is Robert/Bob Reynolds. Sentry has technically in Marvel and this is like Marvel history. They did not ever dispute it. except for Captain America back in the 40s, technically Sentry is the first Marvel hero.
So in 2000, they decided to create the first one after 50 years of creating them. Or 70 years.
Which is why I was so confused. And so what they did was, in his comic, they showed his backstory remember, he's crazy, right? He's insane. He has like multiple personalities, which he eventually finds out. It literally starts. Well, kind of. He got every time. He goes through a cycle where he realizes he has multiple personalities.
Because at least in the way they portrayed it in the show, in Moon Knight, one of his personalities knows the other ones exist.
Yes,
so
and then
the British dude doesn't.
Well, he eventually does find out. I mean, I can't wait until if they ever bring that show back or put him in a movie or whatever. I can't wait till they introduce the third one, who was the most violent one, which even both of them didn't know he existed. Jake Lockley. But yeah, no. So it started off with
what's his name? The actor. Really good. He's in Star Wars.
Oh, Dameron?
Yeah,
that's the Star Wars character. Yep. That guy. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yep. I don't remember. You asked names. So it starts off with he's just a kind of overweight dude living with his wife. He keeps having nightmares of some monster showing up called the Void coming after him. And he slowly starts to remember that he's supposed to be this superhero, right? But he's at the same time, he's like, that's fake though. That's just my delusions. I'm just a normal dude. I have a wife. Things aren't really that good for me, blah, blah, blah. And he's like staring out this window of his house, going through delusions in his head, thinking back to other delusions that he had, which they showed as like, if I said Silver Era comics, would you understand what that meant? 60s and 70s. Like, yeah.
I remember Golden Era and Silver Era.
So Silver Era comics, they showed his,
than I am.
Which is surprising because he's pretty old. He's like 50. So, Batman's older than him, but only by a little bit. Batman's in his Batman's in like 85th year, I think.
I swear, officer, he was like that when I found him.
So they showed Bob remembering who the Sentry is and his like origin story of how he became the Sentry.
Oscar Isaac.
That's it.
Sorry.
It's okay. That happens to me. They show his backstory and like him remembering how he became the Sentry by making the flashbacks look like Silver Age comics, which is cool. Because cool. The 2000s era did this like slightly more realistic looking art a lot, and realistic not as in like they tried to make it look human, but they tried to make it look as that's just a picture of someone turned animated style, kind of like that, right?
That was the tail end of comic books rebranding themselves as graphic novels.
Yes.
Whereas in
trying
the 60s,
to be a little bit. They tried to be slightly more adult, and this one is not adult, but it's adult in the fact that he's crazy and it deals with mental health.
How did he get? It sounds like the plot of Hancock first.
It does actually, which might have been. It probably was the guy who created it probably was inspired. Wait, when did Hancock come out?
Either late 90s or very early 2000s.
Okay, so there might have been some inspiration on either side. Either from Hancock or from Sentry. But Sentry, Bob's just standing there. He's remembering these delusions he had of him as a kid, like a teenager, knowing this this professor who's trying to make the super serum, because all the professors back then were trying to make super serums. As they do. I mean, that's how the Hulk came about. That's how all of them came about. And
they get to keep their own faces and noses. And skin.
So you talking about Red Skull?
Not at all.
Oh yeah. So as a kid, it's showing in the flashback. As a kid, he finds this vial.
What Red Skull thought the first time he looked in her? If it was like, all right, go ahead.
Probably screaming.
Or it was like, well, crap.
Unless he was crazy enough to be like, yes, this is what I should look like, because he was crazy. Finally, my real skin. Yes. So. As a kid, he broke into the professor's office because he was friends with him or whatever, and found the vial of serum, drank it, because teenagers, I guess.
He was made, not born.
He was made, not born, yes. A lot of Marvel characters are made, not born. Marvel likes to do humans trying to become gods. DC does gods trying to be more human. Superman.
Yeah, I in my very early years in trying to attempt comics, I heard the basic definition of the difference between the two is that Marvel likes to make its characters more flawed / more human.
While DC, it was. I mean, that's why Lex Luthor hates Superman, because compare, everyone else, a normal person sees Superman and thinks, oh, that's a god up there.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Thor. They made Thor, a god, be way more flawed than Superman, who's just an alien being with powers.
Well, technically speaking, Thor is an alien being with powers.
Who have
Scandinavians who thought, oh, look at that.
Hey, look, a god with lightning powers who can eat a lot.
And Thor's like, oh, all right, fine.
Sure.
Let me lean into that.
So, the basic way I can try to describe Sentry is, like I said, he is crazy. He starts off in his first comic, in his first issue, as he's just a dude remembering having memories come back to him that he believes are delusions. And the more he thinks about it, the more he just believes into his delusions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he has this vial, or not a vial, he has like a flask. And he's like, I swore I would never do it again, blah, blah, blah. And he drinks it. And then he's like, I'm going to become the Sentry again.
Was he not the Sentry the moment before he drank it?
No, he was still just Bob Reynolds. It is, so technically he has to drink the serum
on a regular basis.
It's supposed to be like that, or like he only drinks it once and then.
That sounds like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yes. Problem is, the first time he drank the serum, his molecule, his powers stayed like that. It's just whenever he goes through the cycle, which I'll get to in a second, his powers are dormant, and then when he drinks the serum, they come back. What actually was the serum was, it's kind of toss up whether it was the serum or if it was just alcohol, because he's crazy and he thought it was the serum and it made him strong.
So he could be drinking Gatorade and it makes him think that it's real, and he just triggers into Sentry mode.
Yep. It's crazy.
Spinach.
I don't know. Well, yeah, it's Popeye. I can see what you got there. So he drinks it, and then he goes and he into his closet and he puts on his suit. His suit was a leather jacket with a blue, I wouldn't even call it cape, but it was like, I guess, cloth that was supposed to be a cape with clothespins on his back, not like on his shoulders, because Sentry has his cape down to like starting here, almost at the shoulder blade, right? He puts on his suit, and
his suit consisting of a coat and a cape.
A coat, a made cape with clothespins holding onto the back. Yes, his super suit. His wife is worried about him because she woke up and saw that he was doing these things again.
Before he do that, did he say, "Honey, where's my super suit?" Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We love The Incredibles.
We love saying
he eventually. It's been a minute since I read the first few comics, but I know that the more he was like going into his delusions, the more he actually started having powers. And at one point, he ends up at this like work site that Mr. Fantastic is in charge of, right? And ends up standing on the top of a crane. And he's like standing, looking kind of like a superhero, but a bum superhero.
Accidentally wanders onto the top of a crane.
He didn't wander. He kind of he didn't say what he did. He just said, I got out here the normal way, which means he flew. And Mr. Fantastic shows up, spiraling up, was like, hey, buddy, how'd you get up here? Are you okay? He's like, hey, Reed, it's been a long time. I haven't seen you in a long time. Reed's like, do I know who you are? Like, you should. You'll remember, or maybe you won't. I don't know anymore.
At this point, Reed's like, oh.
Reed in his head is like, okay. So
he's special.
He's tapped. That's okay. So they start talking, and they start talking, and Bob was like, Reed, you'll remember me. I'm your best friend. Like, you went to my wedding. You were my best man. I went to your wedding. I was one of your best men. Like, there, and he's talking like he knows him, and Reed's like, I have no idea who you are, buddy. Hey, how'd you even get up here? The normal way? Right. Sure. Yeah, the normal way. And then all of a sudden he steps off, and Reed tries to catch him. Except when he stepped off, he didn't go anywhere. He starts flying. He's just hovering in air. And eventually they talk a little bit more, and he goes off. Reed is extremely confused, goes back to his house, and then asks his wife Sue about, do you remember a guy named Bob Reynolds? And she said no, and somehow they found a little like statue thing that was given to them as a souvenir from somebody's wedding, and then underneath that is a VHS tape. This is 2000. There's a VHS tape that says, "Reed, absolutely do not watch this." / Reed, as in like it was him who made it.
Yeah.
And Reed's like, I can't not watch it now. I got to. So the Sentry is out there.
Never noticed it before? Was there a perception filter on this thing?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Ripping off Stephen Moffat.
Well, this is 2000. This is beforehand.
Okay.
There was.
Well, maybe Stephen Moffat ripped that off.
Probably not. I don't think Stephen Moffat read comics. Unless he did, then that would have been a crazy pull for a somewhat obscure comic from back in the 2000s.
He is British.
He is British. So Sentry's out there. He's flying around. He ends up going because he is in New York, obviously because he met Mr. Fantastic, and he's like sitting on the edge of I think the Chrysler Building. Spider-Man shows up. Spider-Man is like, "Hey, buddy, how'd you even get up here?" And now in the comic, and I wish I could show you, in the comic, you see that his suit, his cape that had clothespins aren't there anymore. Now there are two S's, which is what holds the cape on Sentry's suit. And the cape and the blue cape that was cut to look like a cape suddenly is longer and looks like an actual cape.
So he not only has the power of flight, but he has the power over fabric.
The more he remembers his past, and I loved it. It was so cool to watch. The more he remembered his past, the more his powers came about. Also, the more his suit actually turned into his suit.
Manifested it into reality.
Literally, because he is crazy, and that's how his powers kind of work.
So hang on, let's rewind a couple of days. He's still Bob.
Yep.
He hasn't drunk the serum yet.
Yep. Doesn't remember it currently.
At any point, does Bob open his closet and go, I wonder where that coat came from?
Probably.
And close his closet.
Probably not, because he's not meant to look at it.
Okay, so it is a perception filter.
It is, in fact, it's not just for him though. Like you said, Reed is in the comics. Reed is his best friend. They did go to his wedding. He went to their wedding. Like, that's a thing that happened.
Okay, that brings up a whole other set of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Does everyone else at the wedding remember except for those two?
No. It is a perception filter of the entire world.
Does the state of New York record department have the marriage license on file?
Yes. No one's going to look at it though.
Okay.
Because it is, like I said, it's anything that pertains to, like when it pertains, anything that pertains to the Sentry or Bob Reynolds himself, no one's going to look at it. And the easiest way to tell you, so I'm gonna get to that.
You're gonna get to that.
And it's gonna be a crazy way they did a perception filter, right?
Okay.
So the more
you should definitely watch the how it should have ended for Spider-Man where he gets Doctor Strange.
No Way Home.
No Way Home, yes. Where
I need to watch it. I haven't actually watched it yet.
Yeah, because this, Doctor Strange is like, hey, before we do that, why don't you just let me go talk to the Dean of Admissions and see if we can get him to just let y'all in instead of doing this whole crazy thing. Spider-Man's like, oh yeah, that's probably a better idea. Anyway, go ahead.
Because he's a doctor with a lot of PhDs and whatnot.
And threatening powers.
And threatening powers. Well, he probably could have just, mined whatever.
He basically threatened the lawsuit, and the Dean's like, okay.
No, that could have worked.
Yeah.
So basically, Spider-Man shows up. Sentry's sitting there, or Bob's just sitting there. By the way, his eyes are starting to glow a little bit more gold.
What I'm hearing so far is that Bob just wants to chill and be left alone, and these random superheroes won't stop bothering him. He just needs a moment alone, and Mr. Rubberman and Spider-Man just like, hey man, you can't be by alone. Hey, look at me. Let me interrupt your calm. Anyway, go ahead. Sometimes a man just needs to be by himself.
He was on the top of the Chrysler Building, where a lot of superheroes tend to go to. Yeah, his eyes. By the way, his eyes are glowing gold at this point. Like, I'm not talking about his irises. I mean, his entire eyes are yellow, gold, like the sun.
Yes.
He's talking to Spider-Man, and he's like, "Hey, Pete, how you doing?" Spider-Man's like, "Who are you, and how do you know who I am?" For those of you who don't know, Spider-Man's Peter Parker. Spoilers, I know.
What?
He's like, you were there. I've been friends with you for a while. I fought beside you. You even took this great picture of me and showed a. It was so interesting. They changed the picture of it was the Sentry in his uniform standing in a superhero pose. Obviously not looking at the camera, but the picture was drawn in the comic to look like a realistic picture drawn into a comic book. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So
anyway, I guess
yeah, it was made to look like a real picture of somebody. And Pete's like, I don't remember taking that picture. They talk a bit more. Sentry flies away, because he's still crazy and he's still kind of just talking to people like, hey, you know me. I know you don't know me, but you know me. Spider-Man goes back to Daily Bugle. It's Peter Parker. He asks, like, does anyone remember me taking this picture? Goes to the files, and eventually he's like, here's, a paper from this year of talking about the Sentry. Why don't I remember this? How come I don't remember him? So, like, every time he talks to somebody, they do something to find a piece of information of him, and they're like, how come I don't remember this? And then they start to remember. Like Mr. Fantastic, he puts the VHS tape into his VHS because, again, it's the 2000s, and that's what they were back then. And it was a
VHS player with your very favorite TV show back in the day. We literally had to buy a brand new VHS because you watched the same show every day. We recorded it for you every day.
What TV show?
Blue's Clues.
Oh God, I don't remember that. But
we put an X on it so you don't remember.
Wow, thanks. The videotape was Bob's wedding, the Sentry's wedding.
Who did he marry?
His wife.
His wife. Does his wife remember him?
At first, no. She also thinks he's just insane. Everybody thinks he's just not insane. She thinks he just has like some grand illusions. Yeah. And then the tape also shows, Reed making the tape, being like, "Hey, if you're watching this, then," and it breaks off. Eventually, it comes back and says, then the world is in danger, and you need to do the same thing you did last time. You remember what I mean when you watch this. And I'm gonna get to that in a second. So Reed is informing himself, hey, if you're watching this, that means
Star Trek: The Next Generation so far, by the way, just so you know.
Hey, he's watching this, and he's like, if Sentry is back, the world might actually die today, so you need to do what you did before, and it's gonna hurt, but you're gonna have to do it again. Sentry eventually is flying around, and he's like, I am the Sentry, I'm Bob Reynolds, and he's like going through more of his flashbacks. He's having more, and each one of his flashbacks of remembering, like, jump ahead a little bit, or like go to different like adventures that he had, and each one looks like his original, right? Looks like Silver Age comics. And the next one looks like an 80s or 90s comics, a little bit more like edgy punk rocky slight.
Yeah.
Okay. So he eventually, like at one point, his suit in his flashback, he's huge, right? He's like a huge dude. His suits, he always wears yellow and blue, and he has like a blue like mask tied around the back of his head. He's supposed to look more huge and intimidating, kind of like Batman in the 80s. Each time he remembers something, his suit looks different, and the comic that the way they made it is a different style of comic from the era until they catch up to the 2000s. And when he finally remembers who he is, what he does, how many people he's saved, and who, like, that the Void is coming, because he knows if he starts remembering, that means the Void also is going to be showing up, and that he has to help save the world. He needs to get as many heroes together as possible, stop the Void. Eventually, his bum-looking, outfit turns into the Sentry suit. He has long hair now. His eyes glow gold. And he is the Sentry. Bob Reynolds has turned completely into the Sentry. And his powers are fully back. And the problem is, that also means that, like you said, the Void is coming back, and the Void can destroy the world. Yes.
Not a good thing.
Exactly. So people start remembering him, and they're like, I can't believe I forgot you. Cap remembers him, all the Avengers. So everybody shows up to help him stop the Void. Void shows up. It's this like black looking monster thing, but it can change form. And it shows up. It's talking to Sentry like, I knew you'd remember me at some point. I'll always come back. I'll always be here to fight you. I'll always try to destroy the world. And they're fighting. He defeats the Void. this is a long conversation I did not mean to have, but basically,
we started off by saying, I can boil this down quickly.
Yes, I know, and I didn't mean to go this far. I'm going to try to, basically, they fight the Void, they win. Yeah, some of them got hurt, but they're, it's superhero comics. They don't get hurt for that long. Anyone that does die, they don't stay dead for long, like Dean. And Sentry is like, I'm going to be back to being a superhero. I'm not going back to being Bob Reynolds. And eventually, people are like, Mr. Fantastic's like, I'm supposed to forget you, but I can't forget you because I have an inquisitive mind and I need to figure out why I need to forget you. In like downtown Manhattan somewhere, there is a giant black tower with think Sauron, with spikes going up the top of the tower and a gold and like a mini sun looking thing in the middle between the spikes, right? That's the Sentry Tower. It looks evil. It's apparently not. He also has a robot in there called Clock, CLOC. And it's an AI thing that they go through this like process of trying to remember why everyone forgot him, and they figure it out. That's because Bob told them to. Because the Void, remember how I said that he has multiple personalities? Mm-hmm. The Void is another personality of the Sentry. Yes.
It lives outside of him?
Yes. Fully autonomous. Awesome. Completely different. Unlike Moon Knight, where they're all inside of him, or Legion, where they're all inside of him, this one he's so powerful that, and he wasn't supposed to be the Sentry, right? He was not supposed to have that power. He just ended up drinking it because he was a stupid teenager and did stupid things. Yeah. When he did that, his powers came about. He became the Sentry. But at the same time, another thing formed away from him that was still his personality. That was the Void. The bad guy to his good guy. And they're all still Bob Reynolds, and I know it doesn't make sense. That's why it confused me so much when I was reading it. Because whenever the Sentry is around, the Void won't stay gone for long, right?
Makes sense.
Yes, since they're the same person.
The Void can't die until the Sentry dies.
Yes, so the way they do that, instead of, they don't kill him.
They make him forget.
And they make him completely the Doctor.
Yeah.
That Doctor episode where he could not, I still don't like that. That's there. That Doctor episode where he had to become human in order to hide from that family. Same thing. Bob has to go back to being Bob in order for the Void not to be around and not to destroy the world, because the Void can corrupt people and can kill them. He almost corrupted Captain America. Almost killed Spider-Man. He almost killed several of the superheroes.
So this is going to be a very interesting character for them to shoehorn into an hour-and-a-half movie.
Because that's perfect how you just said that, shoehorn in. That's exactly what the Sentry's character is. In his own comics, he's just, hey, I'm a character that's been around this entire time. Just no one remembers because they're not supposed to.
Marvel actually missed an opportunity to pretend like they had retconned the entire real world. You open the first page and like, hey, if you're reading this comic book, you actually read this before, you just don't remember. They could have taken the in-world everyone forgot and brought it outer world to try to convince all of us that Sentry's been around since 1992.
Start off with, no one knew. If you're reading this, then it's already too late. He'll be back soon.
Yeah.
We'll have to go through this again until the next time you pick this issue back up. Something like that.
That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. Percy Jackson did that with if you're reading this, then it's too late. The monsters already smell you because you're already trying to figure out what you are. All right. So the basic story, which took a long time to explain, which I didn't mean to, but this is what happens every time, is the Sentry is a character that has multiple personalities, is completely insane, and is both the good guy and the bad guy of his own story. So whenever the Sentry is around, the Void is around, and the Void can kill people, will kill people, and will try to destroy the world because that's what he's meant to do. The Sentry is there to stop him, and the Sentry doesn't just have, like I say, he's a Superman clone. He doesn't have all the same abilities as Superman. He has the same, but more, right? He also has psychic abilities. For instance, during his slow transformation, remembering of him being the Sentry, when he fully became the Sentry, he psychically links his mind to Professor X. One of the most powerful psychics in all of Marvel.
Poor guy.
and Professor X is talking to his kids, and suddenly he's like, "Who's in my head? Who's talking to me?" And he's like, "Hey, Professor, it's me. It's been a long time." Huh?
His kids are like, "Do you smell toast, Dad?"
Yeah, I'm like, "Are you okay?" But no, he has psychic powers. Like I said, he has heat vision. Technically, he doesn't have cold breath because he has the power of 1,000 suns. Nothing he has is cold. He super fast. He's strong. He's super durable. He's pretty much invincible, kind of. I wish I could put up the invincible thing from the show. I'll have to edit this part out. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah. Here. So he, he has Superman's powers, a few more. And the problem is, like I said, whenever Void is around, he'll come back. When he comes back, Void comes back. And the cycle is that he has to constantly keep going back to being Bob. Or they have to, in the later issues, like in the 2010s, they found a machine that allows Bob to psychically connect his mind to the machine. And there's like a pocket world in there where he can live out his adventures to keep. It's like he still remembers he's Sentry.
Yeah.
But when he's out in the real world, he's just Bob. He's not the Sentry anymore. But when he goes into this pocket in his own mind world that was made for him by, I think, Mr. Fantastic and Tony Stark, he's able to keep the Void at bay by living out these adventures that he had every 24 hours. So that way his powers stay gone and the Void stays gone. Like I say, he's a very complicated character.
Sounds like it.
Yes, it is. That's why I'm very much looking forward to the movie, because I really am interested in how they're gonna bring in the Sentry. Because
I don't know how they're gonna. Having learned all of that, way more than I was expecting.
Sorry,
that's okay. No, it's a lot there. I don't know how they're gonna cram that into it.
That's why I kept saying he's a very complex character that both makes sense and doesn't make sense at the same time.
No, it just doesn't make sense.
It is. Oh, washed. Marvel really does like taking these, insane characters and giving them a lot of power, like Legion. Moon Knight doesn't actually have a lot of power. He's just violent. His suit only protects him. That's about it. But no, yeah, Sentry is complicated. It took me so long to figure out what he actually is, how his story works. It was a good comic. It was a really good comic. And I read the first 3 series of his, which were all like 5 issues long. It was like him remembering him being the Sentry and trying to, figure out a way to keep the Void at bay. And then him having to fight the Void and then figuring out that him and the Void are the same and they'll never be apart. And that he can't be Sentry without the Void being around and having to go back to being Bob. It was a whole long, complicated. It is, but
which brings up another question that I have for you for another video, which is how does one even start something like this? But I'll say that question.
The good thing is,
next video.
His wasn't his starting in 2000. He doesn't have many of his own issues, and he doesn't have a lot of. Marvel, they have like a thing you can look at where it'll show like all the issues they've ever been in, whether it's their own comics or in other comics. His were only, I think he only had like 20, 25 comics that he was ever in the last 25 years. So there wasn't a lot to choose from, and I read most of them. So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, I'm looking forward to the movie. Very, very few Marvel movies these days do I look forward to. But
I know.
I am looking forward to this one. Sort of.
I'm looking forward to it. It looks fun. Plus, it looks like I said, it looks like Suicide Squad movies, which I enjoyed. I like those kind of like, not bad guy, but well, those were bad guys. But
the main problem with Suicide Squad is it was DC. DC movies are terrible. But anyway,
I can't disagree with you on some of that. But yes, that the explanation took way too long. I am sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry for all of you too, because this video is going to be a bit longer. But I love Sentry. He's a great character, and he's extremely complicated. And trying to explain, I'm not yet good enough to explain him in a short manner. I'm not Aris Quinones, Variant Comics. But I'm looking forward to the movie when it comes out May 2nd. I'm pretty sure we're going to be there May 3rd.
At some point, yes.
We're going to be there May 3rd. But I will see y'all in the next video. Have a good one.